Good morrow, everyone. I'm Megan Azus, and this is Abby Azus.
Welcome to ACGMS News at 5, where we bring you the latest stories from all around the world right to your living room. On today's news, we will be discussing stories locally, nationally, and globally.
Our first story today brings us right to your front doorstep. Stephen Procopio of Newcastle, PA, was arrested for 3 homicide counts: the deaths of Lawrence Cannon, Nicole Pumphrey, and her 10-year-old daughter. There were 4 other children in the home during the shooting. Procopio was known to be a former babysitter for Nicole, being an acquaintance of the family and all the children, although there is someone else being examined by the police as another suspect, one who could have potentially helped Procopio with the 3 murders.
Reporting live from the scene is Carly with Mr. Gursky.
Thanks, Abby. I'm here with Mr. Gursky, former LEIT instructor and current principal of Lenape Tech. Mr. Gursky, as Procopio being only 19 when convicted, would you agree to him spending life in prison? Do you believe in the death penalty, or should he be let off with a small punishment as a warning?
Well, I think the process itself is called corrections for a reason. If this individual is convicted of the crime, that's where the courts have to weigh in on a decision to determine what is the best course of action. With him being 19 years old, sentencing him to a life imprisonment will likely be the option the district attorney goes for. The death penalty if there's aggravated or mitigating circumstances. Part of that really deals with helping the individual become rehabilitated, working with their therapists and different means to try to get the person integrated back into somewhat of a semblance of a normal life. To lock them away and throw away the key until they die in prison isn't necessarily the solution. So it's a very complex question.
In that community, do you think they should be concerned about crimes like murder happening often? If this was your community, would you move or help find ways to make your home safer?
Well, the Newcastle area is no different than any other area with a large population. The more people you have, the more possibilities for crime exist. They're handling the situation with their police department and with their community based on the resources that they have. There's no way to predict. I mean, violence can happen anywhere at any time, small communities, more populous communities. So it's very tough to distinguish for law enforcement, where do you put your resources and how do you address those concerns and needs. I don't know that relocating or moving away from the community is the idea. I think these folks need to come together, address those issues through education, law enforcement, support, and presence.
Knowing this crime happened locally, how does it make you feel that a babysitter ruined a family that he worked for? Does this make you nervous when hiring a babysitter?
Well, it's a terrible situation, and whether it's a babysitter or somebody coming into your home to perform some type of contracted work, or whether it's a school bus driver or a postal worker, there's very difficult aspects of trying to determine or predict criminal behavior. In this case, of course, people are going to be more hesitant, but there are resources out there to help identify babysitters or other services for the home and family with people that have had background checks, and you can check and make sure that there's never been any criminal arrests and things like that. So I think technology supports that. More and more people are able to get online and actually Google a person or look them up to see if there have been previous criminal convictions and things along those lines. So it wouldn't scare me away from hiring a babysitter, but I would use those resources to make an informed decision.
Thank you, Mr. Gursky. I'm Carly Azus reporting live from the scene in Newcastle, PA.
On a larger scale across the pond, the 7th largest Ebola outbreak is happening in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and is raising concerns of its chance to spread. The World Health Organization has warned that this outbreak has a high chance of spreading throughout the Congo and neighboring countries. To make matters worse, there is a war going on in the Congo, which can prevent the WHO from sending help to areas in need where there is conflict. The outbreak was declared on August 1st, and since then there have been 188 confirmed cases with 83 deaths. There is a great deal of mistrust in the communities of the Congo, leading to many of those with the virus to refuse to go to treatment centers and staying at home. This leads to friends and relatives caring for those infected, which makes it very easy for Ebola to spread to more people and quickly. There is an experimental vaccine being given out to those to prevent and stop the spread in hopes of keeping the outbreak contained.
Sarah Zeus is all the way over in the Democratic Republic of the Congo with more information about the Ebola outbreak. Sarah, take it away.
Thanks, Megan. I'm here with Ebola expert Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry, what is Ebola?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that, Sarah. Ebola is actually, it's the Ebola virus, which gets its name from the Ebola region in West Africa. It is a river in Africa, the Ebola River, and the virus is actually a combination of, let's say, 8 to 10 viruses that all commonly fall under the Ebola virus blanket. It is a extremely contagious or direct contact virus in that we get it from, it can be contact with bodily fluids and also, of course, then sexually transmitted also. Very contagious. It originated from, they believe, fruit bats, believe it or not, a virus that the bats carry is something that people eat and is prevalent in that region of the world. And also from primates, monkeys in the trees, different things like that. Again, if you know, the human contact with those animals is very common in that part of the world, so that's easy to catch that virus.
Do you think this outbreak has a chance to spread to the United States?
Well, as far as an outbreak goes, no. The virus there have been infected people in the United States, but the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta does a great job of isolating those people and then taking care of it that way and treating them. It's not necessarily a fatal disease. People do survive from it. They do have long-term effects of the disease, of the virus. But we have a different culture and a different way of treating people here, whereas someone that gets maybe the virus in Africa would not necessarily go to be treated or see a physician or a medical personnel. So here in the United States, generally when someone gets sick, they go to see the doctor, then we isolate them, and then we take care of it that way. So the odds of that actually spreading are probably pretty low.
What further action do you think can be taken to end or stop this outbreak?
Well, it's almost like a culture change. One of the things that we found when we researched this a few years ago was they have ritualistic burials when someone dies. So someone's infected with the virus, they pass. And then they're taken care of, and the funeral is at home. So the family members will ritualistically take care of the body. Well, body fluids, the virus, it seems to go that way. People that are infected continue to have unprotected sex, which is spread that way too. So those sorts of things, those things need to become part of the culture and part of the change. And with continuing education through the people that live there and are exposed to that, I think it will never go away, but it'll have a good chance of being put under control.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Back to you, Megan.
There have been many hurricanes in the year 2018, but Hurricane Michael is the strongest with 155-mile-per-hour winds. The eye of the hurricane has hit in New Mexico Beach, Florida, and has destroyed most of people's homes and belongings. It is recommended that everybody evacuates the forecasted path of the hurricane, but there are shelters available if you cannot afford to leave. About 1,200 people are staying in the shelters and 36 people have died so far because of how destructive this natural disaster is. First responders, including 16,000 federal employees and over 8,000 military personnel, are helping the individuals get to safety. Throughout Bay County, there are more than 2,500 structures that have been damaged and at least 162 have been destroyed. Hurricane Michael is changing many people's lives with its quick destruction. Let's see if we can get a hold of Carly Azus, who is witnessing this devastating disaster firsthand along with Miss Bowser. Carly?
Thanks, Megan. I am here with Miss Bowser, a tourist here in Florida. Miss Bowser, I understand you're on vacation. Would you ever live in a place where hurricanes occur often, and why?
I don't think I would, considering all the damage that I see around me right now from this hurricane. I came down here to visit my family. They're devastated right now. So yeah, I don't think I would.
Okay. And if your home got destroyed in a hurricane, would you rebuild or move?
I gotta tell you that that's a hard decision, but I think that I'd move because we just keep having more hurricanes, more frequent, and it's costing a lot of money. So I don't see the sense in rebuilding and, wasting the money to have it torn down again.
And do you think storm trends are growing into why these hurricanes are getting stronger, and why?
I do think storm trends are growing, and I definitely think it has to do with climate change. Climate change is affecting a lot of things in Florida. I don't know if you've seen the red tide. It's affecting people's lives, and we have more and more storms due to the heating up of the earth and the ocean absorbing the heat in and creating these massive storms. So yeah, I think that climate change is definitely something we need to look at. We need to start being a little bit more serious about it. And thank goodness for the young people that we have right now who are kind of taking that on and pushing for more restrictions on CO2 and fossil fuel use. So yeah.
Thanks, Ms. Bowser. Back to the studio for more.
Thanks, Carly. Hope you're okay down there in Florida. Across the country into international waters, a little bit of the Netherlands is here in America. The Ocean Cleanup Project, an organization focused primarily in the Netherlands, have set out to rid the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, located off the coast of California, of the pollutants clogging the ocean. According to News Atlas, the Ocean Cleanup Project constructed a single floating U-shaped barrier, 2,000 feet long and 10 feet deep. This device will sit on top of the ocean surface, and the netting skirt will be able to catch the plastic waste, scooping up waste like a giant Pac-Man before palming it off to a support vessel that carts it back to land. In action, System 1 will be propelled by water currents, surface waves, and wind, which would move the tubing faster than the rate of plastic moving throughout the ocean. With the current system now in effect off the coast of California, the Ocean Cleanup Project hopes to deploy over 60 more systems within a span of 2 years all over the world. In 5 years, they estimate over half of the plastic currently in the ocean will be removed. The first plastics removed are set to hit landfills in 6 months. We have Glenn Azus and Mr. Mazzara in the studio here to discuss this.
I'm here today with Mr. Mazzara, an expert on this matter. Mr. Mazzara, if this new system fails to collect the plastic waste, what would happen to the plastic tubing floating in the ocean?
Well, the problem that I see that we would have is it would continue to grow, and we would have more and more of this waste out there. It does need to be addressed before it gets to the point where we can't control it at all, and where it becomes a really big problem to the aquatic life in the ocean.
Do you believe this system will work the way it is intended, or will there be bigger obstacles the Ocean Cleanup Project has to face?
Well, there's always going to be obstacles that they can't see, that they can't predict and what they're going to have. I personally think that the biggest obstacle they're going to have is just the total volume that's out there, and the fact that they're just going to have so many ships going to and from this area. Just the distance that they have to travel to bring it back to land is going to be an obstacle that they have to overcome, and then dealing with everything once they get it back to the mainland.
After all the plastic is removed from the oceans and into landfills, how will individuals be able to combat the waste clogging landfills, and what steps should the Ocean Cleanup Project work to fix this?
I think the biggest thing that we can address on this is simply recycling. If we get more people to recycle, and even if it needs to be government mandated, in the long term it's going to be better for the environment and better for humans on the world as it is. So that's the key to doing this, is to getting things recycled or making it so that they are more biodegradable, so that we don't have to continue with this problem.
Heading right back to you, Abby.
Thanks, Mr. Mazzara, for your excellent input. Now on to matters close to home. On October 16th, the Bureau of Labor Statistics conducted a study that released information that as of August 31st, that 7.1 million job openings exist. With this study, it stated that there are more potential job openings that are unemployed. Many of these jobs require a 2-year degree. This is the first time in U.S. history that this has occurred.
Some say this will hurt the economy. Here's what individuals at Lenape Tech say.
I'm back here at the ACGMS studio with Mr. Longwell, the Lenape Tech physics teacher. Mr. Longwell, do you think that the increasing jobs will hurt the economy?
I don't know how it can hurt the economy. We have an economy that's based on the theory of infinite growth. So I mean, we constantly need to have these jobs coming available for our young people to take, for our employed people to move up to better careers. We constantly need these jobs to have opportunity.
Do you think that these jobs will become potential careers or just jobs that people will hop around to and from?
Yeah, I think there's always a little bit of the grass is greener mentality, and people will, when opportunities increase, when salaries increase, people will move from job to job. But I think we see an equilibrium established. Anytime that there is a change, a big correction, one way or the other in our economy with jobs or with interest rates or with inflation, we see a rebalancing of the economy after a while, and then there may be some of that job switchings, that hopping around, but it certainly finds an equilibrium sooner or later.
Do you think that the increase in income taxes will help lower the country's debt?
I've wondered for a long time what, if anything, will ever lower the country's debt. And there are a lot of theories about the taxes and debt. We have seen economists propose theories from one side of this or the other for years. Art Laffer and many others. And really, it's one of those things that only we find out in the end. We find out years later, well, that worked or that didn't work, when it's far too late to make a change. I certainly hope that it makes a change, because anytime people are paying taxes, we're going to yield rewards as a government. But we also have increased social services and increased compensation and all those other things that come with employment.
Okay, thank you. That's all, folks.
This has been ACGMS News at 5. Thanks for watching.